And with Jared and Ivanka reportedly being stunned because they had been talking to him and wanting him to come on board and thought they had some confirmation that it would happen, I think this is the worm turning for them, where they have to understand that people are just humoring them. No one's going to be telling them the truth. They all know this is bad and just want to say, yeah, and move away from them. And that's going to be hard for them to understand that their power is dwindling.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know. You know, Donald Trump running the country is awful. Jared and Ivanka running the country is at least as awful as that, because they're under illusions that they're a lot smarter than they really are, a lot more competent and capable than they really are, and you could. It's just an unspeakable mess in there. I reassure people that look, it's been worse, right? The years before. The Civil War, things were worse and the country was in a worse pickle. Doris, am I wrong? I'm starting to worry that I'm being not accurate and that things
No, you're
may
absolutely
not have been
right.
worse.
It hasn't been as bad since the 1850s, and that didn't end up too well with a civil war that 600,000 people died in. But what strikes me when you talk about the miserableness of these people, there's no joy in that White House. You don't see anybody who's really feeling the fulfillment of their job. And it's hard enough to be in a pressured situation like the White House if you don't have joy, and the top guy doesn't have any joy. Do you see President Trump really finding himself in this job? He's fighting every moment. The only joy is when he's out with the rallies and he gets oxygen from the rallies. But inside the White House, he's trapped. That's why I keep thinking, and maybe that's what Joe's been saying all along, I keep thinking at some point he might resign. If this thing gets so bad and he's coming right in on him and he can figure out some honorable way that he's doing something good by leaving, he'll figure it out some honorable way. Something in his definition that allows him to go.
Conceivably, my other idea for the morning is rather than have Jared and Ivanka play the role they are, make them chief of staff. Take the informal power, make them the formal power, make them accountable. That way you don't have a whole second White House. In a funny sort of way, it's time to make this a real White House. If you want them to have positions of responsibility, give it. That way they can't undermine others. They have to be accountable. They have to, like everybody else, live up to all the obligations. Right now it's a cake and eat it White House. That's not sustainable.
Well, I suppose on the bright side, the country now knows who the smartest person was working at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and of course that would be Nick Ayers.
Yes, exactly.
At least we know the answer to that question.
All right, still ahead on Morning Joe. Of all the pressure bearing down on the president right now, there is one topic that might be the most troubling to the White House. Senator Angus King explains which next on Morning Joe.
The White House has tremendous energy. It has tremendous spirit. It is a great place to be working. Many people want every single job. You know, I read where, oh, gee, maybe people don't want to work for Trump, but believe me, everybody wants to work in the White House. They all want a piece of that Oval Office. They want a piece of the West Wing. So many people want to come in. I have a choice of anybody. I could take any position in the White House, and I'll have a choice of the 10 top people having to do with that position. Everybody wants to be there.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.